face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello and welcome. I'm Gomechi Samandida and this is POA Daily News. Stay with us for in-depth coverage of the stories shaping our region and the world. The chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mohamed Ali Yusuf, welcomed the peace agreement signed today by President Paul Kagame of the Republic of Rwanda and President Felix Tshisekedi of Democratic Republic of Congo. He describes this development as a significant milestone in the pursuit of lasting peace, security and stability in the Great Lakes region. U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday praised the leaders of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda for what he called their courage in signing a new agreement aimed at ending the long-running conflict in eastern Congo and opening the region's critical mineral resources to the United States and American companies. The signing ceremony held in Washington offered Trump another opportunity to cast himself as a global deal maker. The U.S. president, who has repeatedly expressed his desire to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, framed the pact as a diplomatic triumph. It is a great day for Africa, a great day for the world, Trump declared, adding, "Today we're succeeding where so many others have failed." Presidents Felix Tshisekedi of Congo and Paul Kagame of Rwanda traveled to the U.S. Capitol for the signing, where they were joined by officials from other African nations. The ceremony came during the same week Trump publicly derided Somalia, saying he did not want immigrants from the Eastern African country entering the United States. The White House described the agreement as a historic, building on months of mediation involving the U.S., the African Union and Qatar, and formalizing an earlier framework reached in June. The new agreement also builds on a recent economic framework among Congo, Rwanda, and regional partners. Trump announced that the U.S. had signed bilateral accords with both Congo and Rwanda to expand American access to critical minerals, a key strategic interest as Washington seeks to reduce dependence on China. "We'll be sending some of our biggest and greatest U.S. companies over to the two countries," Trump said. "Everybody is going to make a lot of money." Eastern Congo is home to some of the world's richest deposits of cobalt, coltan, and other rare earths essential for manufacturing smartphones, electric vehicles, fighter jets, and advanced technology. China currently dominates the global supply chain, accounting for nearly 70% of rare earth mining and 90% of processing. Later on Thursday, American business leaders were set to meet Congolese and Rwandan officials to discuss investment opportunities in minerals, energy, and tourism. China and Africa reaffirmed to work together for promoting global South interest. China is ready to work with Africa to further unite the vast number of global South countries and make joint efforts to build a more just, equitable, open, inclusive, practical, effective, coordinated, and orderly global security governance systems. Wang Lexin, Security Cooperation Department Director General at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China, said, addressing a seminar under the theme "Work Together to Build a Common Security, China and Africa in Action" held in Addis Ababa, she stressed that China and Africa need to strengthen peace and security cooperation to jointly create a peaceful and stable environment for their common development.
China is ready to join hands with AU and African countries to build a community with a shared future that enjoys lasting peace and universal security. China and Africa play an increasing role in conceptual guidance and the consensus convergence for the Global South and for the entire international community, which will promote a more balanced development of the international power dynamics and profoundly affect humanity's historical process of peace and security.
Lei Xin underlined the importance of the Global Security Initiative's GSI, a Chinese vision emphasizing common, comprehensive, cooperative and sustainable security, which continues to win strong support across Africa. She stated China's commitment to justice and fairness for African countries in global platforms. The Director General finally expressed China's readiness to work with the AU and African nations to build a community with lasting peace and universal security. On his part, Parfait Onyango, Special Representative of the Secretary General to the AU and head of the UN Office to the AU, stated that unless the benefits of international cooperation become more tangible and equitable, global divisions will widen and conflicts will intensify. He welcomed China's Global Security Initiative, GSI, and noted that the GSI upholds the central role of the United Nations in global security governance and encourages mediation, inclusive dialogue, and cooperative approaches to resolving disputes.
We welcome the commitment expressed in the GSI to supporting the efforts of African countries to resolving the continent's peace and security challenges, including through building the full range of Africa's capacities and by confronting terrorism and violent extremism. African agency and ownership in these sensitive areas is indeed critical.
Onyango further highlighted the critical role of predictable and sustainable funding for AU-led peace support operations and could accelerate the AU's silencing the gun agenda as well as enhancing the UN Security Council efforts. Deputy Chief of Staff of the Chairperson of AU Commission, Musa Mohammed Omar, said that the event comes at a critical moment for global governance and geopolitical fracture deepen. Confidence in multilateralism erodes and crises overtake the mechanisms designed to resolve them. Omar affirmed that Africa is open to deepening partnerships with all actors who recognize the continent's strategic importance and support its role as a full participant in shaping global order.
Africa is ready to build together and work to find global solutions with all those who recognize Africa's role and place on the international scene. Africa stands ready to contribute to a new global order based on cooperation rather than based on confrontation.
Africa's partnerships with China, the United Nations and other bilateral partners are built on mutual respect and shared interests rather than dependency, he elaborated. Moving to Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama has reiterated Ghana's full commitment towards sustaining efforts to meet the global target of ending HIV/AIDS by 2030. A statement issued from the presidency said the president expressed the commitment during a courtesy call by Madam Winnie Benyama, the executive director of UNAIDS. He assured her that Ghana had found alternative funding sources to cover the shortfall arising from the withdrawal of PEPFAR, a donor organization. This, President Mahama said, was underscored by the urgent need to maintain and improve on the gains the country have made in combating the disease and the 2030 target. He said the most affected segment of the population were young girls and women, which was a worrying trend and needed critical attention. The president noted that in addition to the government's efforts, his wife, First Lady Lord Dina, in collaboration with the Ghana AIDS Commission, continues to champion advocacy programs to help combat the spread, manage persons living with the virus, fight stigmatization, and how to integrate them into society to lead meaningful lives. President Mahama agreed with the UNAIDS Executive Director that there was the need for a global HIV response to address challenges threatening decades of progress. Zimbabwe is making significant strides toward reducing its reliance on wheat imports, with notable progress in the production of hard wheat, a key ingredient in bread making. The Agricultural and Rural Development Authority (ARDA) has successfully completed 4 years of trials, while seed producers have developed new varieties that meet industrial quality standards. ARDA Chief Executive Officer Mr. Tinotenda Miko said the trials have shown consistent performance, positioning the country for full-scale production. He noted that the new variety, white in color and preferred for bakery products, has protein levels of up to 17% in high-altitude areas and gluten content of 37.6%. The elastic gluten content formed during milling provides strength for bread making, ensuring good loaf volume and texture. Upon completion of these trials, this will be a game-changer as we strive to achieve food self-sufficiency and food sovereignty, as it is our pillar in the economic blueprint, NDS2, Miko said. Minister of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, Dr. Anxious Masuka, emphasized that the trial results should spark policy discussions on wheat imports. We produce soft wheat and we require hard wheat for the production of bread, and this is the imported product critical for bread making. When we discuss about imports of wheat, we are talking about hard wheat, he explained. Meanwhile, Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services Dr. Jemfan Muswer highlighted the government's optimism following this season's record wheat harvest. The harvesting of the wheat crop has been completed with a total of 640,195 metric tons harvested from 122,146 hectares at an average yield of 5.2 metric tons per hectare. Trials are underway at ARDA to produce a variety with hard wheat characteristics. A total of 47,709 metric tons of barley has also been harvested from 6,156 hectares, he said. Zimbabwe has already achieved milestones in soft wheat production, but has continued to import hard wheat from countries such as Russia and Canada, which accounts for 30% of the wheat required for bread making. The breakthrough in local hard wheat production is expected to transform the agriculture sector and strengthen downstream industries, marking a major step toward food security and economic resilience. Now to business news. Nigeria's Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Well Edun, says that Federal Executive Council (FEC) has approved a $100 million African Development Bank facility under the Nigeria Youth Investment Fund. The minister told journalists after the FEC meeting on Wednesday in Abuja that the fund would support entrepreneurs aged between 18 and 35 and engaged in small and medium-scale ventures. Edun said that the FEC also approved an Islamic Development Bank facility for an integrated agricultural development project in Yobe State. There was also approval for an Islamic Development Bank support for Yobe State, and it is an integrated agricultural development project. And in both cases, these are multilateral development partners. Their funding is concessional, it is relatively affordable and long-term, he said. Edun disclosed that Nigerian President Bola Tinubu acknowledged improvements in GDP growth but maintained that the current figures remain below his target. The president directed the ministries, departments and agencies (MDA) to prioritize capital spending on projects that stimulate growth and generate employment, he added. The African Development Bank Group, AFDB, has approved a €17.71 million loan to support the second phase of Cabo Verde's e-governance and public financial management reform program. The financing, endorsed by the bank's board of directors on Monday, continues assistance that began last year as the island nation works to harness technology for economic growth and administrative efficiency. According to Abdoulaye Coulibaly, Director of the Governance and Economic Reforms Department at African Development Bank, the initiative aims to stimulate economic growth through digitization and private sector competitiveness, while advancing reforms to modernize public administration and strengthen fiscal management. The program's first component will focus on digitization, reforms to enhance private sector competitiveness. Measures include introduction of e-justice to digitize judicial processes and a call for proposals to attract private operators to Cabo Verde's technology park under the Digital Nomads program. Admission criteria will be established to encourage the presence of digital nomads and high-growth technology firms. The second component targets the modernization of public administration and fiscal sustainability. Policy actions will be supported to improve transparency and efficiency in public resource management. The action plan to rationalize tax expenditures will be published with full estimates included in the 2026 budget. Additionally, African Development Bank will finance a public expenditure and financial accountability assessment in early 2026 funded through the Middle Income Countries Grant. Key beneficiaries of the program include the Minister of Digital Economy, the Central Bank of Cabo Verde, the Institute for Gender Equality and Equity, the National Directorate of State Revenue, and the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority. Sports news. Finally, FIFA has officially confirmed that the release of players for AFCON will take place on December 15. This means African players at European clubs and elsewhere cannot join their national teams for AFCON until December 15 unless a consensus or negotiated agreement is reached between the player and the club. FIFA made its official statement on Wednesday after fruitful consultations led by FIFA with key stakeholders. The Bureau of the Council has taken a decision in relation to the mandatory release of players for the CAF Africa Cup of Nations 2025, which will take place in Morocco from 21 December 2025 to 18 January 2026, FIFA said. The football organization said the release date will be reduced by 7 days, urging clubs to discuss and negotiate to find appropriate individual solutions. The confirmation comes amid frustration among coaches for African national teams ahead of the competition. According to L'Equipe, European clubs have reportedly pressured FIFA to delay the release of players until December 15. Reports said the situation coaches have been in contact with each other to express frustration over the situation. Spanish sports-focused news outlet AS reported on Wednesday that Real Betis plans to keep its players, including Morocco's Abdi Ezalozi and Sofiane Amrabat, until its match against Rayo Vallecano on December 15. FIFA said in its statement that in case there is a dispute over the release of players, the sports organization will mediate between both parties. Let's take a look at the current forecast and what conditions to expect across the region. That's all from POA News for the hour. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more updates from Africa.